He thought his eyes were closed, but he wasn't sure. There was an enormous pressure on his face and head. Its insistence promised to crack his skull. His fingers tensed and something soft moved between them, catching at the nerves like pins and needles. He curled his hands into claws. As he did, he felt a shift of pressure against his hip, and more space opened between his side and his hand. He tried to twist, pushing out as hard as he could with tingling palms, and then found himself turning around. He moved his head backward as if coming up for air, and there was an explosion in his skull, a white flash of pain that froze him. It was okay, he told himself. Pain was good. Pain meant he was alive. And pain was good, but movement was better. Movement meant survival. He pushed forward with his body. The strain on his chest forced the last dregs of air from his lungs in one final scream, which he heard this time. The noise staggered out of him in fits and starts. He whooped as he sucked in breath and roared as he exhaled. Solid matter, gritty and thick, bullied past his tongue and teeth and fell as mud from his open mouth. Once the spin in his head settled into a slow, sickening revolution, he opened his eyes. He was partially upright, one arm out and stiff, his fingers splayed. He dug in and pulled his other arm up, then pulled himself upright. There was a sound, a rattle. Sounded like a snake. He froze again before he realized that the sound came from his own chest. He cleared his throat, forced a cough, and spat to one side, wiping his mouth on the back of one dirty hand. With the fresh air came the taste of salt and metal on his tongue. The darkness around him was blue-tinged and softer than before. The dead man blinked. He stared at the mound of dirt where his lap should have been. It took him a moment to realize that he was still half buried, his legs numb from inactivity and the weight of the soil. He would dig himself out, but first he needed to get his lungs used to breathing air instead of dirt. He looked up. Stars winked at him. He felt a chill. It was night, late, and the dead man was alive. Life came with its problems, though. With breathing came fresh pain, not just the pulsing, raw ache in his fingers, but a sharper dig in his left side, just under the ribs of something that had punctured the skin and not quite healed. And as he turned, his head flared, pounding now and wet to the touch. He coughed again, which turned the pain up a notch. The wounds were fresh and they were serious, which meant he needed to get moving. The dead man hauled himself out of the earth in stages. First his thighs, then down to his knees, and then finally rolling over to one side to expose his shins and feet, twisting out of the ground like a well-plucked weed. He massaged the blood back into his thighs and kicked away the surplus dirt, then went to his hands and knees. He reached out for support and found a rock wall, which provided him with a sturdy guide as he slowly rose to his feet. When he was upright, the dead man leaned against the wall and looked at his feet. His shoes held a shine and about a kilogram of dirt. He shook his shoes out over the hole he'd made and then brushed dirt from his jacket, suddenly aware of how he was dressed. He wore a dark suit, what must have been a white shirt at some point, and both were expensive, judging by the feel of the cloth. Under one flap of his jacket he saw a wide, dark stain that stuck his shirt to his left side. He tugged at the shirt a little and a fresh blade of pain slipped between his ribs, making him suck his next breath and abandon further exploration. He leaned against the rock wall and waited for the pain to subside. Conjugating, I will die. I am dying. I have died. He opened his eyes. His vision blurred for a moment, then focused, and as it did, the salt taste in his mouth became the smell of the sea carried on a chill breeze. He thought he heard it, too, even though he knew it was probably just the rush of air around his ears. He was high up, he knew that. He could feel it. He also knew that at this altitude a breeze could easily turn into a gust without warning, and so he held on to the rock until he felt he could trust his legs. He looked down at the hole. The churned earth looked like